hope everybody out there had a fantastic Christmas. You're enjoying the holiday season. Today I want to talk with you about rule changes and adapting to rule changes. This is very important. Even if you are not going to be jumping from one sport to the other like I am now going to be doing, but sometimes we can be at one city, one country, one athletic commission, and changes happen and we need to adapt to that. Sometimes we adapt beforehand, sometimes we adapt in the moment. Now, I have just switched and signed to karate combat, which means I am going to be having to change up the way I train to adapt to the new rules. So I want to talk with you guys about that. I also want to keep this episode more honest. And because of that, I'm not going to be stopping and starting, doing all the cuts, really collecting my thoughts. I just want to go through and give you guys a very raw version of what I'm feeling about this situation. So first I want to say that having to experience a rule set change is often very frustrating. And if you feel like this sometimes, you're not alone, because I go, you know what? I am so used to the kickboxing rules. I want to incorporate the knees, the flying knees. I want to go down to the body. I want to be able to low kick. I want to be able to clench. And throughout the years, I've had to change up as the kickboxing rules have started changing as well. And then I went to MMA and I had to learn a whole new rule set. The striking was still there, but then I had to learn, okay, what about the guys taking me down? What do I have to do on the floor? Now with karate kickboxing, I am going to have to deal with removing techniques from my arsenal. For example, within karate combat, you can kick to the calf, but not to the thigh. And kicking to the thigh is very ingrained in my head. So I'm going to have to make very, very specific training routine changes to make sure that I eliminate that sort of muscle memory of thigh kicking. And it's not going to be easy. I'll be honest with you. I'm not expecting it to be an easy transition, but it's something I have to start taking. And just last week I was doing some sparring and I went, okay, you know what? I'm going to put that limitation on myself of not throwing thigh kicks and only attacking the calf. I didn't love it. Be honest, it's not something that I went, oh, this is awesome, but I have to do it. So in particular, let's break down the karate rules, what I'm going to have to change, and then I'll talk with you guys about changes that you can make and how you can go about making the transition just a little bit easier. So first off, with karate combat, we're going to be fighting in smaller gloves, something more similar to these Bellator gloves with the fingers exposed. Now, what I need to recognize is with a smaller glove, I have a smaller area to block. The surface area is that much tinier, so I have to be ready to keep everything just a little bit more snug. Whereas with those bigger gloves, it's so easy to block shots. So one of the first things I will be doing is I will be wearing those type of gloves a lot and making sure that I am getting used to the extra holes so that when I get into fight, I'm not used to the big 10-ounce gloves. I've done my research and I really understand that difference. I had a little bit of experience with that in MMA, but I need to do more. I need to get better at it. Now, next up with karate combat, we are finally allowed to do takedowns. And that I'm absolutely loving. I'm so excited about that because as I've said in kickboxing, they removed throws and takedowns from the rule set. Very disappointing in my opinion. And I'm very excited to get back to it. Now my throws and my takedowns are a little bit more jiu-jitsu and wrestling based at the moment. I want to go back to getting those tie throws, which I've sort of eliminated from my training. I want to get those back. So I will be able to work with you guys on the channel in more detail about how to execute those because I'm going to be adding them back in myself. Now we talked about the thigh kicks already. Now let's talk quickly about the calf kicks. One of the main differences that I've noticed already from throwing calf kicks and thigh kicks is distance. For example, if I throw a punch straight out from my shoulder, and this is the target, if I now move down lower, I've lost distance. I'm not at that same point where I can hit right down there if we make a straight line. So the same thing is with the kick. If I throw a thigh kick here, but now all of a sudden I'm aiming, let's say, a foot lower, I have to be that much closer to actually land. So there's a distance gauge, which I understand very, very well for thigh kicks, which I will now have to adjust for calf kicks. I'm going to have to get a little bit more snug and really work getting my head off the center line as I throw out that calf kick to make sure I don't get that counter shot coming down the middle. Now, also, what I need to recognize about my upcoming opponents, I don't have one yet, but I need to recognize there is going to be a strength in these karate fighters with their spinning techniques. So I need to start being very, very careful and taking lots of time to train how to defend spinning side kicks, spinning hook kicks, spinning back fists, maybe even things like tornado kicks, which these techniques don't get thrown as much in kickboxing because the practicality of them is a little bit lower than just blasting in a big round kick. But again, I have to look and go, okay, the new rule set in which I'm fighting, what are these guys doing to be successful? What is their background? And if their background is karate, which it will be for all these guys, I need to make sure I go, what are they best at? And how do I protect myself from that? And actively in training camp, I don't very often work on defense of spinning kicks. So it's something to add in now. I understand how to do it. I can break it down for all you guys right now. I'm not going to, but I could, because of course I understand how to block these. But I have to make sure it's not just I know how to do it. It needs to be a muscle memory thing. So as soon as I see somebody spin, as soon as you see that, and you know the guy's coming around this way, you can right away go, as soon as you see that turn, you can right away go, okay, he's going to come down the front with the spinning side kick, up to the head with the spinning hook kick, or maybe up to the head with the spinning back fist. You can right away recognize. And that is a big part of drilling and drilling and drilling a technique, so you don't have to basically get caught with something because you were spending too much time trying to assess and figure out what was coming. This is a very difficult thing, changing up rules. Very frustrating if you were not expecting it. And hopefully, before you compete, you do enough research into the rule set that you know what it's going to be and you can train. Because honestly, adjusting in the fight, that's not what you want to be doing. Going, oh shoot, I didn't know these rules were going to be implemented in this way and now I have to adjust. That's not ideal. You can still do it. But we've talked before about that is basically that fight IQ, that ability to adjust. If you do not have my fault here, we're going to keep it rolling. If we do not have a high fight IQ and we are just getting into something where we don't understand the rule set, it's going to be very difficult for us to make that adjustment. So when we go, all right, let's say for instance, I'm used to fighting with elbows. And then all of a sudden I find, okay, I can't throw elbows in my next fight. We want to make sure that we drill and train without elbows and understanding how that is going to change things up. And it's the same thing for yourself, same thing for me. What we need to do is we just have to make sure that we spend a whole training camp eliminating or adding something into our arsenal and really, really making sure that we are as confident and as capable as possible to execute as best we can on fight night. Overall, the karate combat rule set, I think, is a very good system for me. It will allow me to box. It will allow me to throw lots of body kicks. We need to be honest, I'm not a massive low kicker. I'm not somebody who comes out and tries to KO you with low kicks. So that in itself should not hurt me a whole lot. The part that will hurt me is if I let my brain and the changes that happen sort of overwhelm me. If I start going in and going, okay, don't throw the low kick, don't throw the low kick, don't throw the low kick, and I focus on that so much, that will hurt me. But if I take the time starting now, up until my next fight, to naturally eliminate low kicks from, what I would normally do from that muscle memory, then hopefully I don't have to actively think on it. It will just happen. And that's what we always want to do. We always want to make sure we're taking the training camp and utilizing the time we have to get used to the rule set in which we're fighting. So really that's all from me today, guys. There's not too many other things in the karate combat rule set that I need to focus on. Yes, when the guy hits the ground, there is a little bit of ground and pound. I will work that. Submissions and submission defense are not a massive part, I believe, of this rule set, so I don't have to really focus on that, which, as much as I was enjoying learning jiu-jitsu, it will also be nice to just go back to striking. So overall, the last thing that I have to deal with is the pit. The pit is a little bit different. It now means that instead of the ring ropes coming up this way where you can't really utilize them except for bouncing off them, we now have a slanted ground, which means you can put your foot down to the floor and then spring off it and push yourself forward. You also have to recognize that if you back somebody up to the edge of the pit, they can fall backwards, which means then you have to actively get closer to them and start doing ground and pound with your hands, or maybe blast their calves, something like that. But again, I don't really have a way in my mind right now that I'm going to start training for this. Maybe I'll have to get a little foamy, like something that's 6-7 feet long that's slanted, so I can practice pushing off that and practice falling into it. I'll figure that out, and I will keep you guys posted as I come up with that solution. So, as I said, guys, thank you for sticking around for me, because this was just a one-go episode. I know there are mistakes, but it's a little bit more organic this way, and my thoughts to you are a little bit more natural instead of thinking them out. If you enjoyed the video, guys, please give it a like. If you haven't already, join the channel and get subscribed. As always, train hard, and I'll see you back here soon for another video.